Hey, yo, I want to talk about Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, nunchucks are illegal. What's a ninja? Because we're finally getting cards that cross over with TMNT, and let me just say right here, I am hyped about it. Which is why I'm showing so many pictures of the turtles on screen right now, because I love them so much. Basically every incarnation, yeah, even these ones. And I'm not even joking, it didn't even really dawn on me until I laid it all out for this video, but apparently I'm a mega fan. Who's my personal favourite turtle? It's Casey Jones, don't at me. The original arcade beat-em-up will hold a special place in my heart forever. The more recent Hades clone is a bit buggy but a massive amount of fun, I would highly recommend it. And if anyone could tell me how I could play the Xbox arcade Out of the Shadows game with the 4-player Batman Arkham-style combat in this day and age, I would be forever thankful because that game was my jam. The 1990 live-action movie is not only a cinematic classic, not only so good that it holds up today, but I honestly think remains the best adaptation of the Turtles in any media to date, striking a perfect balance between the goofy lightheartedness of the cartoon and the darker, more serious noir undertones of the comics. And being just dudes in suits and not CGI means it still looks fantastic. But even when the Turtles are CGI, it's still not a deal breaker. I thought that Seth Rogen flick was great and I'm looking forward to more. Even the Michael Bay one had its moments. Apart from Casey Jones wanting to be a cop, come on now. Have you read The Last Ronin? It's sick, and apparently that's getting a movie too. Hell yeah. I own a series of those NECA movie figures that I keep on a display shelf as an adult. I paid money for 4 of the same foot soldier figure just so it looks like the Turtles have someone to fight. I even backed the re-release of the Other Strangeness tabletop roleplay game over on Kickstarter. And that's in addition to already owning a complete collection of the original source books. And if you're about to ask, yes, I do own the infamous uncensored first edition, which still includes the insanity rules removed from later reprints that talk about how having a character roll on the insanity table after a terrible trauma is very appropriate, realistic, and fun. Hey little Billy, your character got hit pretty hard in that combat. For fun, I think it would be appropriate for you to roll to see what neurosis you've developed. Oh, and on a roll of 50 it looks like your TMNT OC has gained a sexual deviation. How realistic. Now roll again on this chart that contains many words I better not say on YouTube. Oh, you got a nat 1? That's the lowest result possible. Well, I guess now you're homosexual. The worst kind of insanity there is. Did you say your character's already gay? Oh, well sorry Billy, but the rules say he's now straight. This is all real, by the way, appropriate, realistic and fun. So anyway, I think it's safe to say that I am a Turtles fan. But here's something else you may not know about me. I love crossovers. Super Smash Bros. Is basically the main reason I bought a Switch. I mained a Mii fighter designed to look like myself if you were looking for evidence that I'm a sociopath. Hey Bandai Namco, you developed the last Smash game, and you didn't include Agumon as a fighter? Explain yourself. Oh, but I'm not buying a Switch 2 though, even if they do add him. Nintendo can forget it at these prices. I love that Super Meat Boy had a bunch of characters from other indie games in it. I played Universes while it was a thing. I was a Stripe main because I couldn't play myself. I'm not really into slasher movies, but I always wanted to watch Freddy vs. Jason just for the crossover. I thought the Scooby-Doo episode of Supernatural was inspired. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is one of my favourite comics, and even the movie is a guilty pleasure. Don't even get me started on Marvel vs. Capcom 2, inject it into my veins, Cap Rogue Storm as God intended. But do you know the one thing that could make any crossover even better? Turtles. The whole reason I bought Injustice 2 was just to watch them and Hellboy smack Batman about. I've paid actual microtransaction money to play as Leonardo in Brawlhalla. I even bought Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, though I do kind of regret it, that game was bad. So imagine my thrill when I heard that we were getting TMNT cards in one of my favourite games of all time. I want a Leonardo deck. I want a Raphael deck. I want a Michelangelo deck. I want a Leonardo deck. I'm sorry, I just don't like Donatello, I just don't. Like, Mikey is the energetic pizza-loving party dude. The perfect encapsulation of a teenager. Raph is gifted with hulking strength but constantly torn over his nature as a freak and outcast. The word mutant perfectly representing that struggle. Leonardo is the one most dedicated to his father's craft, and that craft of course being ninjitsu. And then there's Donnie. He does machines, whatever that means. But honestly, which of these 4 words does he embody the most? He just feels out of place to me, even his namesake is the odd one out too. Plus, picking Donatello for his bow style felt cheap in the Commodore 64 game. Not that the majority of you will know what I'm talking about there. Anyway, back to the cards, and as much as I've loved seeing the previous crossovers featuring things like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, who can forget the Count Dracula cards, and I even enjoyed other Marvel characters like Deadpool and Black Panther. but I must say I was a bit let down by Spider-Man. The word for me is lackluster. Like, my expectations of the character weren't quite met by the cards that we were presented. So today, after my longest intro yet, I want to take a look at the cards that have been announced for the upcoming TMNT set, and ask, do I feel these cards are a better representation of the Turtles than the Spider-Man cards were for Spider-Man? How good do I think these cards will be not just in a competitive environment, but in other formats like casual 1v1, maybe even 2v2, 4-man pod games, or even something unusual like everyone teaming up to take on an archenemy, because this game is more than just a single format and there's lots of ways to play it. So today I'm asking, what is there to be excited about in the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set for Unmatched? Let's zoom in. Now, as we all already know, Unmatched is a 2 to 4 player competitive card game with board game elements. In place of deck building, each character has their own set of unique cards, a health dial, character card listing their special rule-changing ability, and playing piece, which are so goddamn sick. I love them so much. Look at them! Look at them! Oh my god, this is one of the best games of all time. I love it so much. God, look how cool these things are. And what's fantastic about Unmatched is that you can't play cards against your opponent unless your playing piece is in the right position on the board, adding a real tactical cat and mouse aspect to the gameplay. And while Unmatched isn't a trading card game specifically, each character's deck is so varied in the tricks it employs and how it's trying to win that it does actually remind me of the different types of decks and win conditions you'd find in a traditional TCG. While King Arthur might just be a simple beatdown deck winning through sheer power, Blackbeard's gameplay is focused on stealing doubloons and spending them on additional effects. Bloody Mary's attack plan revolves around mirroring your opponent's effects and doing things in threes, while Shakespeare cares about iambic pentameter, and gets a bonus if the number of syllables in the names of the cards that you play in sequence add up to exactly 10. Alas, all are punished. Such sweet sorrow. You're literally attempting to write poetry as you play. One of my favourite fighters is Loki, who instead of discarding cards lets you add them to your opponent's hand after you've played them, and then that opponent either suffers a penalty if they play those cards or gives you a bonus if they don't. Beautiful. If I were to compare the vibe of Unmatched to other big card games like Magic the Gathering, I'd say it's just as competitive but has the outlandish fun spirit of Commander where everyone's deck is trying to win in sometimes wildly different ways. Except to attack you need to maneuver your Commander around a board like a chess piece. If I were to compare it to the Pokemon TCG, I'd say it's similar in both its more rigid your turn, my turn structure, and its focus on playing as specific popular characters. And if I were to compare it to Yu-Gi-Oh, I'd say, I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh. Blue Eyes White Dragon? I don't know. Now, Unmatched isn't just a competitive game, as with the release of the Adventure series, a cooperative 1 to 4 player PvE format was introduced, allowing players to mix and match any of their existing favourite fighters and have them join forces against one of 2 beefed up boss monsters in the Mothman or an invading Martian mothership. The new Turtles expansion continues this series and will contain 4 fighters in the Turtles themselves, who will face off against the beefed up bosses of either Shredder or Krang. What's particularly fun though is again any other character you already own can be swapped in to fight the bosses in place of the Turtles, or you can swap the Turtles out and use them as standalone fighters in 1v1, 2v2 or all-v-all competitive matches too. And it's even been announced that there's hero decks coming for Shredder and Krang which will be less powerful than their boss decks, meaning they're also going to be playable in competitive matches. Though the hero decks for Shredder and Krang will apparently be sold separately and there's not much in the way of information surrounding the details of that at time of recording. Now, spoilers I guess, because I am going to go over some specifics for the set, including the Turtle character abilities and their decks, starting with Bebop and Rocksteady do make an appearance alongside other classic Turtle villains as minions in the set who are played in support of Shredder or Krang. Each minion added to the fight, making the day harder to win for our heroes as every minion gets their own unique deck, which is smaller and slightly less powerful than the boss decks, but means each minion feels like a threat in their own right. Other characters like Karai, Mondo Gecko, Toka and Razor will also appear as either allies or henchmen in the set, and while they don't get their own decks, it's nice to see them included as initiative cards, meaning it will at least feel like they've taken a turn and been involved in the fight. And before we get to the Turtles themselves, I just want to quickly talk about the Spider-Man comparison. See, I was disappointed with the Spider-Man deck. I like that his Spidey sense is represented by getting to know in advance the attack value of cards played against him. But like I said earlier, his deck just felt lackluster. He's got some movement effects, he's got some big hits, and his caring about your opponent playing high damage cards is kind of unique, but whatever. But I actually think the problem I have with his deck comes down to the lack of a card if I'm being honest. See, Spider-Man is meant to have fast reflexes. He can web people up. He can do flips. So why do none of these cards say immediately cancel all effects of your opponent's card? And if you don't know what I'm talking about for comparison, Daredevil gets a feint to reflect his combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes. Moon Knight gets a feint to reflect his combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes. Black Widow gets a feint to reflect her combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes. But why not Spider-Man? Black Panther gets a feint to reflect his combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes. Deadpool gets both a feint and super feint to reflect his combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes. And I'd say all of these characters are comparable to Spider-Man, but Willow from Buffy gets a feint? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde get a feint? Bigfoot gets a feint? Because of their combat prowess and ninja-like reflexes? Can Dr. Sattler from Jurassic Park, the one with the leg injury, have fast reflexes, web people up, or do a flip? No, then why does she get a feint and Spider-Man doesn't? And sure, I understand the argument that having Alice in Wonderland get a feint and Bruce Lee get a feint and Ghost Rider get a feint starts to feel a bit old if everyone's running the same card, but it makes the exclusion of it from the Spider-Man deck noticeable by its absence. Like it suggests as a character he's not capable of it. And seeing as the Turtles are ninjas, I was interested to see which of these two paths forward they'd choose in regards to the card. Give them the same old feint that everyone else gets, or don't, which might be weirder. And I'm thrilled to say that they took the third Geralt of Rivia path of having a card with the text, immediately cancel all effects of your opponent's card without it actually being a feint. So, according to the club and Reddit spoilers linked to both in the description, Leonardo is teamed up with Splinter, meaning you'll be playing as both of them, and together they get Team Tactics, allowing you to move any fighter one space at the start of the turn. His deck seems to care very much about positioning on the board, which feels representative of him being the strategic thinking team leader. And most importantly, he gets I Have a Plan, which is like a feint but at the additional cost of having to discard a card, but with the added benefit of also ignoring your opponent's card's combat value. That's flavorfully, competitively, and mechanically very good. Michelangelo is interestingly teamed up with April O'Neil. And even more interestingly, they get Pizza Party after you play an attack or scheme card, draw one, and your starting and max hand is limited down from 7 to only 3. That's insane, you'll be constantly having to draw and then discard so many cards. Looking at his deck, he has effects that let him reshuffle cards from his hand and discard back into his deck, which makes sense. But also like 50% of the deck gives him additional turns. So once he gets going, he's going to feel like the Juggernaut, constantly attacking, drawing, and then attacking again before he crashes out due to lack of cards. Which is gross and makes me understand the hand size now, gnarly. But most importantly, he gets Guaranteed Delivery, which is like a feint, but you need to understandably return a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck, a drawback you might actually be thankful for here. And then just in case your hand is empty, you can draw 2. Plus this has a combat value of 3 in comparison to a feint's usual 2. Mikey is one to watch because this is mad. Donatello is teamed up with his robot companion Metalhead, who I do like. When they maneuver, they may draw 2 cards instead of 1 at the cost of returning a card from hand to the bottom of their library. But also the deck includes 3 special invention cards that don't get discarded when they're played, and instead stick around buffing Donatello for the rest of the game to represent him building up equipment. And that's cool, that's interesting. The rest of the deck seems pretty versatile, not really leaning into any one specific playstyle, but having lots of situational tricks that are probably interesting in combination. But most importantly, he gets Short Circuit, which is like a feint that only cancels any after combat effects of your opponent's card. But at least like Mikey does have a higher value of 3 compared to a feint's 2. This makes Donnie feel like a worse ninja, but potentially the strongest fighter here if he's fully powered up by his tech. And finally, Raphael is of course teamed up with the iconic Casey Jones. They appropriately have anger issues, which in essence means the first time they lose a combat on their turn, they gain an additional action to have another crack at it. This is true for basically any card ever printed for this entire game, honestly, but I really love the artwork for Raph's deck. The black and red here is gorgeous. Interesting that it's almost exclusively combat cards, so Raph and Casey will really only have one playstyle, but that feels on point. They also get Break Something, which is like a feint, but only for during and after combat effects of your opponent's card. Because they're not thinking clearly, I guess, and then if your opponent didn't have any effects to cancel, you get to deal damage to an adjacent fighter, which interestingly again is not necessarily the one that you attacked, making Raph feel like a real bruiser. I love it. And that's all 4 Turtles. And I'm thrilled to say that in comparison to the Spider-Man deck, they didn't feel as lackluster. As for the set, I am dubious of selling the Shredder and Krang fighter decks as an additional product. I feel like that should have been included in the box because it's the sort of thing that you may not even realise existed if you just see this on a shop shelf somewhere without previous existing knowledge of the product. And being sold separately, someone might even accidentally pick up the hero decks standalone without knowing that they're only one part of a larger game. But apart from that, I love the look of the set. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it. I love TMNT, I love card games, I love crossovers. So I'm really excited to see all three of those things in combination here for one of my favourite games. Because Unmatched is a game not just designed from the ground up to support these kind of cameo fighters, but that who would win in a fight between idea is the whole concept behind it. The first set saw characters from Legend like Sinbad facing off against Medusa, so throwing the upcoming Hellboy into the mix just doesn't feel out of place. Like how Smash Bros. Didn't get past its Dragon King development phase until a version was pitched featuring Mario and Link as fighters. And once video game crossover fighter is baked into the development of the game system, any new characters will feel right at home as inclusions. Crossover cameos are fantastic when the game they're in is designed to support them. I mean, even if you love a franchise like I love TMNT, you wouldn't want to see it cross over into a game system not designed to support it even if you love that system too, right? That's how you end up with Superman having to use guns in Fortnite. That's how you end up with Turtles having to use guns in Call of Duty. If neither the world nor system were designed to mesh, then either the game system you love would have to break to accommodate a world not designed for it, or more likely the world you love would have to break or be thinned down to an insipid representation of itself reduced to little more than a skin just to fit within the system. Which if you love the world, why would you want something so shallow? Probably resulting in something that feels more like an advert or hollow reference designed not for love but instead as something by shareholders who only see the crossover as an opportunity to exploit your love of a franchise for money. Which would do a disservice not just to the game system you love, but to the world that you love too. Which would be deeply insulting as a fan of both. So, I'm looking forward to the Unmatched Turtle set because that isn't what this is. They've clearly put a lot of care and attention into accurately representing the characters, and all of their previous crossovers have been fantastic. I own all of these and they're great. And because the system was designed specifically for representing crossover fighters like this, I'm sure the Turtles will join the growing list of cameo fighters that have been done justice. Because I love TMNT, and seeing them not done justice by being squeezed into a game system not designed to support them would be terrible. Wouldn't it? Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like 27 Publications, Eggboy the Particle that permeates all existence, Blank Space, Wanpako Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, Ominous Jazz, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd like to apologise to any Unmatched fans that don't know that this is basically a Magic the Gathering video. That ending is going to be very confusing otherwise. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, maybe not about how I'm wrong for disliking Donatello. Most importantly, subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know and I will see you next time. Oh, you got a nat 1? That's the lowest result possible. Well, I guess now you're... Well, I guess now you're homosexual. The worst kind of insanity there is. The worst kind of insanity there is. The worst kind of insanity there is. Did you say your character's already gay? Oh, well, sorry, Billy, but the rules say he's now straight. This is all real, by the way. This is all real, by the way. Appropriate, realistic, and fun. This is all real, by the way. Appropriate, realistic, and fun. Fuck.